Hello, this is Mrs. Donnelly. Today we are going to review figurative language. The definition of figurative language is a literary device that makes our writing more effective, persuasive, and impactful. In other words, it livens up our writing and makes it more colorful and more interesting. Today we're going to review 5 types of figurative language. We are going to review a simile, a metaphor, an onomatopoeia, personification, and alliteration. I am going to show you a short YouTube video that is going to go over each of these types of figurative language. Then we are going to look at more examples closely.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
Figurative language devices! Figurative language uses figures of speech to be more effective, persuasive, and impactful. Similes! Similes compare one thing to another using the words like or as cold as ice. The classroom was humming like a beehive, as sly as a fox. Metaphors! Metaphors compare one thing to another without using like or as. My teacher is a dragon. She is a shining star. It was like sunshine. Onomatopoeia! Onomatopoeia is a word that imitates the natural sounds of a thing. The dog will bark when I walk past. The race car driver revved his engine. I love the sound of sizzling bacon. Personification! Personification is when a thing, idea, or animal is given human attributes. Lightning danced across the sky. My alarm clock yells at me every morning. The birds sung with joy. Alliteration! Alliteration is when a number of words have the same first consonant sound. The wild thinks his grapes. The horses have heavy hooves. The railroads round the river. Simile! Time is as valuable as money. Metaphor! Time is money. Onomatopoeia! Did you forget to gush into it? Personification! The last piece of cake was calling my name. Alliteration! The sly slithered snake stuck into the shed. That's the end of our video. Bye-bye now.
Okay, now that we watched the video, I want you to direct your attention to the 2 worksheets in front of you. The first side is basically a chart with all 5 parts of figurative language that we will talk about today. Simile, metaphor, onomatopoeia, personification, and alliteration. On each slide, there will be a definition for each type of figurative language. You will notice here that I have some blank lines. When you look at the slide, those lines will have words that are in red. There will be a blue arrow pointed to the definition, which means you need to fill in the blanks. There will be 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 examples on each slide. You will pick one example to put into this box. After we are finished with this side, getting our definitions, we're going to practice a little bit on the second side. You can see here you have a word bank. We have some sentences that we're going to look at, and then we're going to read a paragraph and try to identify figurative language within context. We're going to start with a simile. This is the definition. A simile compares one thing to another using the words like or as. You can see the blue arrow pointing here, which means you need to write in the words compares, like, and as where there are blanks. I will give you a few seconds to do that. Some of the examples of a simile are the tub water was as cold as ice. Ice is cold. So they are comparing the water in the tub to ice, meaning that the tub water must be very cold. And you can see in this picture, it looks pretty cold. You can even see some ice cubes floating around in there. And she has a jacket on in the tub, so it must be pretty cold. The second example, Jenny was sly as a fox when she snuck into her brother's room to get his candy. So a fox is a very smart and clever animal. Therefore, they're also described as sly. So Jenny was sly as a fox, or she was smart and clever when she snuck into her brother's room to get the candy. So in that last column for similes, you will pick one of these examples to write in. Our second example, a metaphor. Now, a metaphor is very similar to a simile. However, let's look at the definition. A metaphor compares one thing to another without using like or as. So, unlike a simile, it's not using the words like or as, but it's still comparing one thing to another. So, you will fill in the blanks with the words compares and without. Let's look at some of the examples. Remember, you will pick one of these examples to write in your example box. My teacher is a dragon. In this example, they are comparing the teacher to a dragon. So let's look at this picture of a dragon. He looks kind of angry. He looks kind of maybe furious about something. And you think of a dragon and it's a big, sometimes an angry creature. So maybe the teacher isn't very nice. So they're comparing the teacher to a dragon. She was the shining star in the school play. They're comparing the girl to a shining star. Stars shine bright, and usually, if you have a lead part in a school play, you're probably going to shine bright. So they're comparing her to a shining star. You are my sunshine. They're comparing the person to sunshine. Sunshine is bright. Therefore, if you refer to somebody as sunshine, it's somebody that might brighten your day. So you will pick one of these examples to copy into your box. The next example is my favorite example, onomatopoeia. Not only is it a fun word to say, but you can get some great sounds from onomatopoeia. It is a word that imitates the natural sounds of a thing. You will be writing in the words imitates and sounds. So let's look at some of the examples. The dog will bark when I walk past. So the word bark is an example of an onomatopoeia because it is a sound word. The race car driver revved his engine. Revved is an onomatopoeia. I love the sound of sizzling baking. The word sizzling is our onomatopoeia. You will pick one of these examples to write into the box. Next, we have personification. If you notice, the word personification has the word person in it. Let's look at the definition and see if we can connect that. When a thing, idea, or animal is given human attributes, you will be filling in the word human. So what personification is you're taking something that is not living except for an animal, and you will give it human qualities. So you're giving it qualities that a person might have. So let's look at some of these examples. Lightning danced across the sky. Lightning doesn't really dance, but they're using personification to illustrate how it might look like it's dancing across the sky. My alarm clock yells at me every morning. Now, we know that our alarm clock does not really yell at us per se, but it makes a loud sound, almost like it's yelling at us. The bird sang with joy. So that you could see here the bird singing and the music notes coming out. These are examples of personification. So you will choose one of those and copy it into your box. Finally, we have alliteration. Alliteration is the number of words that have the same first consonant sound. So for your definition, you will fill in same, first, and sound. Let's look at examples. The lion licked his lips. You can see here that the repeating sound is the sound of the letter L. Lion licked lips. The horses have heavy hooves. So for this example, you can see the repeating beginning sound is horses have heavy and hooves. And then finally, the red roses were wrapped in ribbon. Now the repeating sound is R. However, be careful here because wrapped starts with a W, but it has that R sound. So red roses wrapped ribbon. You will choose one of these examples to copy into your box. Okay, so now you're going to turn your worksheet over and we're going to practice a little bit. I'm going to show you some examples of figurative language. At the top of the worksheet, you have a word bank. Each word will be used once. You are going to see if you can identify the figurative language in the blank. So the first one, time is as valuable as money. If you said simile, this is correct. So on the line, you will write simile, and you can also cross it out on your word bank. In this simile, they are comparing time to money, saying time is valuable as money. We know that money is very valuable. We know that this is a simile because it uses as. Okay, it's comparing two things using as. Let's try number 2. Time is money. This is very similar to the first one. However, this is a metaphor. You will write metaphor in on the blank. It means almost the same as what the simile means. However, it is not using like or as. It means that time equals money. Did you flush the toilet? If you said onomatopoeia, you are correct. You will write in the word onomatopoeia on the blank and cross it out on your word bank. The word flush is a sound word. Therefore, it is an onomatopoeia. The last piece of cake was calling my name. This is an example of personification. You will write personification on the blank. It is saying that he really wants cake and it's tempting him to eat it. We know that cake can't talk, so therefore this is an example of personification because it's giving human qualities to cake. It's making the cake talk. However, what it really means is that somebody's looking at the cake and it feels like the cake is calling their name to come and eat it. And then finally, the sly, slithering snake snuck into the shed. If you said alliteration, you are correct. You will write alliteration in the blank. The repeating beginning sound is S. Sly, slithering, snake, snuck, shed. To end today's lesson, we are going to look at a paragraph. I'm going to read the paragraph to you. As I read, you are going to either use your highlighter or a colored pencil and try to identify the figurative language that we talked about today. If you do not feel comfortable underlining right away, you can wait until I show the answers. Please follow along as I read the paragraph. Thick black smoke filled the air. The scent of burning toast filled my nostrils and made my eyes water. I gasped for air like a fish out of water. In a panic, I slammed the kitchen door. It closed with a bang as I ran to get my mom. The walls in front of me swam and danced. I needed to get outside for fresh air. I shouted for my mom, but my voice was gravel. Finally, I noticed the smoke cleared and only the smell of burnt toast remained. It's really a blessing in disguise, Mom said. Now you can have pretty puffy pancakes for breakfast. Okay, let's get those highlighters or colored pencils ready, whatever you feel more comfortable with. We're going to look at this paragraph. Okay, so let's look at it. You can see I have some things underlined here and I have them color-coded as well. Thick black smoke filled the air. The scent of burning toast filled my nostrils and made my eyes water. I gasped for air like a fish out of water. Right here, you can either highlight this or you can underline it with a different color. You can use a red color pencil or you can just highlight it like a fish out of water. Now let's look at that. I gasped for air like a fish out of water. This is an example of a simile. They're comparing him gasping to a fish out of water. We know that fish need water to breathe. So if you can imagine him gasping for air because of all the black smoke, and you can see the word like here gives us a clue that it is a simile. In a panic, I slammed the kitchen door. It closed with a bang as I ran to get my mom. Bang is an example of an onomatopoeia. I also see another example of an onomatopoeia. The word slammed can also be highlighted if you want to take your highlighter or color pencil and highlight slammed. They're words that make noises. The walls in front of me swam and danced. So let's think about this. The air is filled with smoke. He's gasping for air like a fish out of water. He's slamming the kitchen door. The walls in front of him swam and danced. We know that walls do not swim and dance. He might have been a little weary just from all the smoke, and it might have looked like the walls were swimming and dancing. This would be an example of personification because they are giving lifelike qualities to the walls. I needed to get outside for fresh air. I shouted for my mom, but my voice was gravel. So gravel is like rocks. And let's think about this. My voice was like gravel. He is comparing his voice to gravel. However, we do not see the words like or as. Therefore, this is an example of a metaphor. Finally, I noticed the smoke cleared and the smell of burnt toast remained. It's really a blessing in disguise, Mom said. Now you can have pretty, puffy pancakes for breakfast. Pretty, puffy pancakes. You should either underline or highlight that. That is an example of alliteration because the beginning sound of P is present in the beginning of each word. So that is the end of today's lesson. Tomorrow we're going to practice some more using some interactive websites to help us identify figurative language.